Hey friends, hey friends, hey friends, hey friends, hey friends. It's Quiet Night ASMR. Welcome to this video. I hope you are doing well. Today, I am going to continue in my Greek mythology series, and today I'm going to be talking about Aphrodite. So I got my tablet here ready with her story. Okay, I hope you enjoy this. Let's get started. Okay, so the myth of Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. The most beautiful of all goddesses was Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. She was often called the sea-born goddess because she was formed one evening from the foam of the sea, where its waves beat upon her rocky shore. Her eyes were as blue as the summer sky overhead, her skin as fair as the white sea foam from which she came, and her hair as golden as the yellow rays of the setting sun. When she stepped from the water upon the beach, flowers sprang up under her feet, and when she was led into the assembly of the gods, everyone admired and loved her. Zeus, in order to make up for his cruelty to Hephaestus, gave him this beautiful goddess for his wife. The gods prepared them for the grandest wedding possible. All the gods and goddesses were there, bringing with them magnificent gifts for the bride. But the most wonderful of all were the presents given her by Hephaestus himself. He built many palaces for her, the most marvelous of which was on the island of Cyprus. In the middle of this island was a large blue lake, in which there was another island. Upon this, Hephaestus built a palace of white marble, with towers and ornaments of gold and silver. It was then filled with wonderful things, which the skillful god made to please his wife. Among these were servants of solid gold that would obey the wishes of Aphrodite without a word or sound. There were also golden harps, which made sweet music all day long without anyone playing upon them, and golden birds, which sang the sweetest of songs. All birds were great favorites of Aphrodite, and they loved her as much as she loved them. They taught her their bird language so that she talked with them as though they had been persons. Of all them, however, she liked the doves and the swans the best. Doves fluttered around her head and alighted on her arms and shoulders wherever she went, and swans drew her back and forth in a beautiful boat across the waters between her palace and the shore of the lake. Aphrodite was the kindest and gentlest of the goddesses. The Greeks did not pray for her for power, as they did to Zeus, or for learning and wisdom, as they did to Athena. Instead, they prayed to her to make the persons they cared for love them in return, and probably to be beautiful. Once a sculptor named Pygmalion tried to make a statue that should be more lovely than the loveliest woman. He chose the finest ivory, and for months and months he worked patiently at his task. As it began to take the form of a beautiful maiden, under his skillful chisel, he became so interested in his work that he scarcely took time to eat or sleep. At last the work was finished, and everybody said that the statue was more beautiful than any woman that had ever lived. But Pygmalion was not satisfied. All day long he would sit in front of the statue so that it might talk to him and love him in return. He longed for this in secret until at last he grew bold enough to ask the gods for help. Then he went to the temple of Aphrodite, and there before the altar he prayed to the goddess to change his statue into a real woman. As he finished his prayer, he saw the altar fire flame up 3 times, and he knew that the goddess had heard him. He hastened home, and there he found that his statue of ivory had indeed been turned into a woman of flesh and blood, and all his life long he blessed the goddess Aphrodite for granting his wish. Okay, now we are on a different site right here, and that one says, Aphrodite, like the other gods, she patronized some characters in mythology. This protection occurred with individuals where love and beauty, Aphrodite's attributes, stood out. The forbidden love of Paris and Helen assured that the goddess a sympathy until after the end of the Trojan War. Thanks to Aphrodite, Menelaus forgave Helen's betrayal, and they were reconciled. Yeah, Pygmalion, whom I've talked about before, like his statue turned into a real woman, and he actually married her, and they had a daughter named Paphos, which gave name to the island. In addition to its protection of lovers and passionate, the goddess protected members of his family, even distant as her granddaughter Ino. She saved them from Hera's wrath turning into bird. Aphrodite also gave beauty to Coronides, 2 daughters of Orion, after the death of their mother. Similarly, she took care of the orphan daughters of Pandareus, a favorite of Demeter, who was turned into stone after trying to steal bronze in Zeus' temple. His daughters Cleodora and Merope, who were also motherless, were protected by Aphrodite, who took care of them and held them. However, when Aphrodite went to Zeus to ensure a happy marriage for girls, they were taken by the Furies. There's some stuff about her with Adonis. So, once while Aphrodite, or her Roman name Venus, and her son Eros, or Cupid, were kissing. Why were they kissing? One of Eros' love arrows cut her. She pushed him away, thinking it to be nothing. However, she saw a mortal named Adonis and fell deeply in love with him. But Adonis was later killed by a boar. His death was caused by his arrogance and foolishness, since he refused to take Aphrodite's advice. Aphrodite then turned him into a flower. In later retellings, however, Aphrodite somehow, someway managed to go to the underworld and entrusted him to Persephone to raise him. But when Aphrodite came back, Persephone refused to return him, either because she became infatuated with him too, or because she was an overprotective mother. In any case, they went to Zeus, and Zeus decided that Adonis would spend 4 months with Persephone, 4 months with Aphrodite, and 4 months with whoever he wanted. He chose Aphrodite. His death was either caused by Aries, Artemis, Apollo, or by Persephone. That's really interesting stuff. I can't actually tell you if this is like the correct story since I'm reading this from the site, and I don't know all about it, so no guarantee that it's all actually true. Well, true to the legend. Alright, okay, so quickly about her appearance. Aphrodite is a vain goddess, proud of her looks and disdains ugliness. Now, it suddenly says, next to being loving, she is apparently also shallow, arrogant, and jealous. So I'm not sure which one of these things are actually correct. And she's faithless in relationships with many gods, like Aries, Poseidon, Hermes, Dionysus. She can make anyone fall in love with anyone, even Zeus is not immune to her power, so she is often depicted as a beautiful Some of her symbols include a rose, a mirror, a dolphin, a goose, a hare, a sparrow, a myrtle tree, an apple tree, and a pomegranate. Alright, now we're on yet another site, so let's see what contradicting information we're gonna get from that one. So, Aphrodite's name is usually linked to the ancient Greek word for sea foam, Aphros, which fits nicely with the story of her birth. However, modern scholars think that both Aphrodite and her name predate ancient Greece, and that the story actually came because of the goddess's name. If Apollo represented the ideal of the perfect male body to the Greeks, Aphrodite was certainly his most appropriate female counterpart. Beautiful and enchanting, she was frequently depicted nude, symmetrically perfect maiden, infinitely desirable, and as infinitely out of reach. She was sometimes represented alongside Eros, with some of her major attributes and symbols. The ones that I said before. Okay, now there's another little story. Once, during an important religious festival, the Hetera Phryne decided to swim naked in the sea. The famous painter Apelles was so overwhelmed by the exquisite sight that he drew the most famous, now lost, painting of the ancient world, Aphrodite Rising from the sea. Many artists have tried recreating it during the centuries past. The sculptor Praxiteles had a bit more luck than Apelles. He also modeled his most celebrated sculpture of Aphrodite after Phryne, but a copy of that sculpture has survived to this day. It is one of the first life-sized female nudes in history, okay? Now we're getting into that. Plato says that when Aphrodite saw the sculpture, "Alas," said she, "where did Praxiteles see me naked?" Okay, that's that's funny. Worshipped by basically everybody, Aphrodite, the one who raises from the sea, was appropriately called Pentemos, of all the people. However, she was also called Urania, or heavenly, so some Greek moralists tried to make a distinction between these two Aphrodites, claiming that Aphrodite Pentemos is the goddess of sexual desire, and Aphrodite Urania the one of platonic love. Now we know that this was the same goddess called by numerous other contradictory epithets as well, which often describe the complex nature of love, smile-loving, merciful, and the one who postpones old age, but also unholy, the dark one, the killer of men. Yeah, it's pretty interesting what these different sides can tell you. Aphrodite and Aries, I think I've mentioned that before. She started an affair with someone as destructive and as violent as herself, so now she's depicted as violent. Aries, Helios, however, saw them and informed Hephaestus, her husband, afterward he made sure to devise a fine bronze net, which ensnared the couple the next time they lay together in bed. To add insult to injury, Hephaestus called upon all the other gods to laugh at the adulterers and free them only, after Poseidon agreed to pay for their release. But, of course, there's more. Hephaestus could not have known that when Poseidon saw Aphrodite naked, he fell in love with her. He must have found out later, since Aphrodite gave Poseidon at least one daughter, Rhode. She didn't give up on Aries either. In fact, after the bronze net scandal, she bore the god of war as many as 8 children: Deimos, Phobos, Harmonia, Adrastia, and the 4 Erots, Eros, Anteros, Pothos, and Himeros. And Hermes as well. So Hermes didn't have many consorts, but he did have Aphrodite at least once, as the very name of their offspring, hermaphrodites, suggests. And if we take into account that Priapus is usually considered the son of Dionysus and Aphrodite, it seems that only Zeus and Hades managed to never fall for the goddess of love. But the second one didn't even live on Olympus, and the former may have been her father. So, she did all that. Very cool. Alright, well, I think that's enough for now. As you could see, I tried to read from different sites, and some of them were slightly contradicting, and maybe not entirely true, but there's not really any way, as I can tell, since I'm not like an expert on Greek mythology, so I'm just hoping that most of this is mostly correct to legend. So, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I will see you